Welcome to the Exfo Intelligence Podcast. Today, we are going deep, really deep, into a subject that, well, it operates in the shadows of our daily lives. It's a force that, across all of human history has distorted our perception, undermined our potential, and sabotaged our success. We call it the invisible war. And look, this isn't theory, firm. This is the result of applying our Deep Augmented Thinking method to analyze thousands of real-world cases. I mean, everything from personal crises all the way to the destabilization of entire societies. And what we found, it's like a hidden architecture, a universal blueprint for deception. And today, we're going to map it out for you. So, let's begin with the arsenal. Focused. Every successful deception, it relies on three fundamental weapons, and they're always deployed in concert. The first one, and honestly the most powerful, is fear. Think of fear as a master key. It just bypasses rational thought and triggers our most primitive, self-destructive responses. Our analysis consistently identifies 6 core fears that are being exploited. The fear of inadequacy, of rejection, of loss, the unknown, of being controlled, and that deep fear of a meaningless existence. When you're in the grip of any of these, your ability to see clearly is, it's compromised. The second weapon is doubt and uncertainty. You see, deception doesn't just grow in the dark, it creates its own darkness. By systematically attacking what you hold to be true, your judgment, your memories, your trusted sources, the deceiver, they create a vacuum, a void, and they can then fill that void with their own self-serving narrative. Slight pause. Then, the third weapon, the exploitation of desire. Our core human desires, for security, for significance, for connection, they're the engines of our lives, right? Deceivers don't invent these. No, they amplify and misdirect them, promising you the world, all while leading you down a path to emptiness. Now, these three weapons, they're not used randomly, not at all. They're part of a predictable, 4-stage process, methodical. Stage 1 is isolation. The target is systematically separated from their support systems, so physically, emotionally, or through information control. Then comes stage 2, confusion. Okay, so with the target isolated, their mental clarity is attacked. They're just bombarded with contradictory information, emotional manipulation, overwhelming complexity, until their normal decision-making process, it breaks down, building intensity. And that leads to stage 3, dependency. As that confusion gets deeper, the target becomes more and more desperate for clarity, for relief, and they begin to rely on the deceiver to make sense of the world. This right here is the critical turning point. It's where influence becomes control. And then finally, stage 4, control. Serious. Once that dependency is established, the deceiver can dictate the target's beliefs, their actions, even their identity. The target, in fact, will often defend their manipulator because they fully internalize this distorted reality as their own. Now, I know you might be thinking, this sounds obvious, so why do so many smart, capable people fall for it? And this is a crucial insight. Deception, it rarely targets a lack of intelligence. It exploits the very architecture of our minds. The fact that our attention is a finite resource, the fact that strong emotions can temporarily override rational thought, the fact that trust, which is the bedrock of society, creates inherent vulnerability. These are not bugs in our system. They are features, and they can be turned against us. Our analysis has even uncovered specific critical thresholds, like tipping points, really, where deception becomes self-sustaining. For instance, when a deceptive narrative, let's say it saturates about 60% of a population or a network, at that point, it achieves a momentum that is just incredibly difficult to reverse. Or when an individual loses connection with, say, 3 or more of their trusted support relationships, while their vulnerability to manipulation increases exponentially. And this one's fascinating. When your brain's processing demands exceeds roughly 70% of your available mental capacity, your critical thinking ability declines precipitously. But here is perhaps the most profound discovery we made. These patterns are fractal, passionate. They operate on every single scale simultaneously. The dynamic of, isolation, confusion, dependency, and control that defines a toxic relationship, well, it also appears in dysfunctional corporate cultures and in destabilizing political movements. That self-sabotaging inner critic in your head, it follows the exact same blueprint as a propaganda machine. It is one integrated system. And if it's a system, it can be countered with a system. So, the question is, how do we fight back effectively? Our research points to an optimal defense strategy. It's built on a 3-pillar framework with a very specific resource allocation that is proven most effective. Clear, deliberate. 40% of your effort has to go to Pillar 1, direct intervention. This is the active frontline work, identifying and neutralizing deception as it happens. It requires rapid detection, clear protocols, and strong boundaries. Another 40% goes to Pillar 2, resilience building. This is the deep work. It's about strengthening your inherent resistance before an attack even begins, through critical thinking skills, emotional intelligence, and having diverse, healthy support networks. And then the final 20%, this is crucial. It must be dedicated to Pillar 3, adaptive monitoring. See, deception tactics are constantly evolving. This pillar ensures your defense system learns and adapts so it never ever becomes obsolete. Now, this 40-40-20 balance, it isn't arbitrary. It creates a really powerful synergy. Your resilience building makes intervention easier, more effective, and then intervention provides real-time data that informs your resilience strategy. The monitoring just ensures the entire system stays alive and responsive. Within this framework, we also identified a critical force multiplier. We call it the bridge agent. These are individuals or entities that connect otherwise isolated groups. They are the conduits for accurate information, the providers of external reality checks. Our model shows that protecting and empowering a single bridge agent strengthens the entire network's resilience by, get this, approximately 3.7 times more than protecting an average isolated individual. Emphatic, they are the linchpins. This all leads to the creation of what we call a living defense system. It's one that follows a natural 7-day rhythm of adaptation, sensing new threats, evaluating defenses, reinforcing what works, pruning what doesn't, exploring new strategies, integrating innovations, and finally, synchronizing the entire system. So, okay, how can you implement this right now? For yourself, as an individual, it can start with just a daily practice, maybe 10 minutes in the morning to ground yourself in your core values and anticipate the day's challenges. Throughout the day, practice some micro habits. Pause before making a decision when you're under pressure. Verify a surprising piece of information from a second source. And then 10 minutes in the evening to reflect, integrate, and consciously strengthen your connections. For a community or an organization, it means building a culture of transparency and psychological safety. You have to establish norms that reward honesty over just compliance and create formal processes for collective reality testing. The ultimate victory over deception, it comes not from building higher walls of paranoia, but from cultivating deeper wisdom. Sincere, the ability to see clearly, think critically, and act with integrity, especially when you're under pressure. This transforms the battle from one of fear to one of empowerment. The path forward is to build awareness, strengthen resilience, maintain connection, and commit to continuous growth. And in doing so, you don't just protect yourself, you become a source of clarity and truth for others.
Now here's a question we'd like you to think about. As you move through your world, look at your own information ecosystem, your relationships, your internal dialogue. Where do you see the subtle forces of isolation and confusion at play? And more importantly, who are the bridge agents in your life? The people who connect you to different perspectives and ground you in reality. What is one single thing you can do this week to strengthen that connection?